Welcome to The Awakened Heart, a podcast for healing women, a place where your voice matters, your body is sacred, and your journey home to yourself is honored no matter how winding the road. I'm Autumn Moran, licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, life coach in Texas and beyond the world, yoga instructor, but ultimately your companion on this divine sacred path we call healing. Today, this week, this episode, and Friday's bonus episode, I'm ready to release, but I'm scared about feedback because I'm going to be real, I'm going to be raw, and I'm going to be honest. Today's episode is going to be about parenting the parent, and Friday's bonus episode will be for the parents. Whether they hear it or not, whether they listen or not, I'm going to make it because I think it needs to be said. It needs to be heard outside of a book. So if you share this with the parent, just let them know you found something, right? Just give them an opportunity to listen. But here we go. The story begins maybe in a familiar way. Say you're a young kiddo, 12, 10, however you want to go back, sitting in the house, and your parents may be venting. Your mom, your dad, one of the roles, may be venting about their job, their partner, their past, right? You may nod. You may, in your little mind, offer some solutions that you feel obvious. You hold your breath to make sure that you don't get anyone upset again. You're not allowed to have big feelings, but you're expected to manage theirs. This is what is called emotional role reversal. Being, quote unquote, the parent in your family dynamic doesn't always look like paying the bills or raising siblings, though it can. Honestly, you can also have done those things too. But more often it looks like being the peacemaker when conflict arises, apologizing just to keep the peace, managing your parents' emotions so that they don't spiral, or being praised for being mature when what you really are is unsupported and forced into a role that you've never asked for. So I'm going to name a core wound here. Sometimes this gets people up in arms because it labels someone, or older generations don't like it. I'm not even going to tiptoe around it. It's emotional immaturity in parenting. It can be a buzzy trend word because people are starting to catch on. It's something I go to before we start to say narcissism, right? So it's emotionally immaturity. They're just not emotionally available and they expect you to be emotionally available. This can be hard to admit, right? Like, especially if your parent wasn't overtly abusive. Maybe they provided for you. Maybe they stayed. Maybe they said, I love you. Maybe they bought you gifts. They spent time with you. But emotional maturity isn't about appearances. It's about presence. It's about repair. It's about attunement. So some signs of emotional immaturity in parenting could be defensiveness. You bring something up that hurt you and they say, you're too sensitive, or I did my best, or I must be a horrible parent, or oh, I'm such a bad mom. Performative love. They care how things look to others, what the neighbors think, how proud they appear, but avoid emotional depth. In this way, this is kind of like everyone knows your business of how great you are, but behind closed doors, you barely get anything. You get more criticism, do better, do harder, fix that, put this on, smile. There's dismissiveness. When you open up, they change the subject, make a joke, or worse, just shut down, go silent. And then there's image-based parenting, right? They love the accolades, they love being the parent, but they flinch at your needs. I want to pause because if this is hitting home, it's not because you're broken. It's because this pattern is common, especially for neurodivergent, trauma-experienced women who were taught to be the good girl, the strong one, the emotional adult in a child's body. So some real-life examples of emotional role reversal. Let's say you come home from school visibly upset. Your parent tells you to toughen up instead of asking what happened. Oh, it's not that bad. Go get you a snack. At family gatherings, maybe, you're the one smoothing over tension, translating emotions, or calming your parent down, reminding them to stay in place. Mom, quit it. Mom, behave. Dad, don't say that. When you're struggling as an adult, they say you're overthinking it, or compare your pain to theirs without holding space for yours. Ooh, how infuriating that is. Just hear me, just see me. Don't tell me your experience. Like, it's not about you. In those moments, you become the therapist of the family, the fixer, the container. And the wound is this: you were required to be emotionally mature while never being emotionally parented yourself. That's why it still fucking hurts. That's why guilt shows up when you try to set boundaries. That's why you second guess yourself when you feel anger or sadness. But hear me clearly. Please hear this. Naming the pattern isn't betrayal. I am not out here to say, fuck your parents, leave them alone, they're horrible people, turn against them, they're the bad guys. I'm just helping you liberate. I'm helping you see things for what it is so that you can have self-awareness, and then from self-awareness gives you the power to make action steps, to safeguard yourself, your heart, your mind, your energy, in whatever way that looks like. It doesn't mean you're blaming. It just means you're seeing. Because you're not too much, you're not broken, you're just waking up. And the truth is always the beginning of the healing, right? Like I just said, it gives you self-awareness. And with self-awareness, you can make action steps. You can plan to move, to pivot, to change. Okay, so this part might be a little tender, because once you start to name the role reversal, the emotional immaturity, the years of peacekeeping and performing, something else begins to rise. And that's grief. Not the loud, obvious kind, but maybe the quiet, aching kind. The grief of what could have been. The grief of who you might have become sooner if someone had just seen you. This is what is called invisible grief, the mourning of unmet childhood needs. It's not grief over a death or a loss of anyone. It's a grief over what was never given. Grief for the birthday where no one showed up emotionally. Grief for the teen years spent walking on eggshells. Oof. Grief for the times you cried quietly in your room because no one could hold space for you. Those moments where you had to figure the hard shit out on your own. That's tough. That's grieving, acknowledging that. And the grief can be so confusing because your parents still may be here, texting you, inviting you to dinner, loving you in the only ways they know how. And you may even feel guilty for grieving it all. You may feel guilty for listening to this podcast. But the grief doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you finally see the truth and you're allowing yourself to feel the cost of it. Grieving the parent you didn't get means letting go of the fantasy version you held onto for survival. The one who would one day apologize. The one who would finally say, I see you. I get it. I'm so sorry. The one who would meet you with softness, safety, and emotional warmth. Letting go of that fantasy is heartbreaking, but it's also a threshold into your own healing. Because as long as you cling to that fantasy, you're still waiting. You're still adjusting who you are in hopes of earning love. You're still holding your breath. And that breath you're holding, it belongs to you. This grief often doesn't show up as tears. It shows up in coping. It shows up in perfectionism. If I can just get it right, I'll be worthy of love. It shows up in people pleasing. If I never cause waves, I'll stay safe and liked. And it shows up in overfunctioning. If I do it all, no one can abandon me. Grief is the root of these patterns, not because you're weak, but because you needed those patterns to survive. Your younger self believed, if I can be easy, helpful, smart, or strong, they'll love me the way I need. And when they didn't, the shame turned inward. I must be the problem. I must be too much. But what if the grief you're carrying inside isn't a sign of being broken? It's a sign of waking up. Because when you let yourself grieve, you also let yourself feel. And feeling is where freedom begins. This is not about villainizing your parents. It's about validating you. Your loss is real. Whether they are aware of it, whether they meant to or not, even if no one else in your family talks about it, even if your parent thinks everything was fine, grieving the parent you didn't get is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of coming home to yourself. Because you get to stop overperforming for love. You get to rest from proving. You get to be human, messy, real, unrushed. Not every healing journey includes going no contact, right? So sometimes in these situations, it is a no contact, right? But lots of the times it's not. I mean, not every healing journey requires a no contact. Sometimes it's not feasible. Sometimes it's not what you want, and that's okay. And sometimes the love is still there, but so is the pain. So what does it mean to reparent yourself while maintaining some kind of connection? I'm going to take a sip, take a hydration break, take a breath, because this is heavy shit. All right. It starts with choice, right? And that choice might look like low contact, structured contact, or no contact. So low contact is where you limit your interactions, you keep conversations surface level, and you protect your emotional bandwidth, your spoons, right? If you don't have enough spoons, don't answer the text, don't answer the phone. There's structured contact, where you create boundaries around how and when you interact, like Sunday phone calls only or holidays with clear limits. And no contact when the harm is ongoing and the distance is the only path to safety. There's no one right answer, only your answer. And whichever you choose, healing asks that you shift the focus from changing them to honoring you. That's where the internal boundaries come in, because boundaries aren't just about saying no out loud, right? They're also about what you no longer agree to internally. So some internal boundaries can sound like, I'm not responsible for their emotional reactions. Their inability to understand me doesn't mean I'm unclear. That's a good one. Yeah. Oof. Oh, I can't feel disappointed without spiraling in. I can feel disappointed without spiraling into guilt, right? Like you can feel disappointed. It is disappointing. It's such a letdown when you come to an event or have a conversation and it goes right back into that old pattern of dysfunction. And you're just like, here we go. Yes, Mom, I'm eating right. I'm losing weight. Yes, I wore it out right. They didn't, all the things, right? Performing. One of the most profound acts of reparenting is refusing to take on what was never yours to carry. And after those hard visits or draining phone calls or family events where you felt like a ghost in your own life, you need care. You deserve care. So, difficult family interactions, real life solutions. Let's see. So, say you have to get out of there. Take a long walk while listening to your favorite music. Not to shake it off, but to let your nervous system unwind. Have someone who gets it so that you can text them, not to process the whole event, but just to say, that was hard, and I'm proud of myself for getting through it. Journal without censoring, my dears. Let yourself say the thing you wish you could say out loud. Be as raw and honest as you possibly can be. Tear it up. Throw it away if you don't want anyone to see it, but get it out. And then take a nothing day the next day if you can, right? No productivity, no pressure, just softness. Because if we're speaking neurodivergently in dysfunctional family dynamics with emotionally immature parents, you're probably masking. You're playing a part to keep the peace. And that takes a lot of spoons. That takes a lot of emotional bandwidth. So the next day you may feel like a glob and all you can do is glob. So please plan a day to glob. And if you've ever found yourself over-explaining to your parent, trying to get them to understand, trying to get them to validate you, to finally get it, you're not alone, my dear. But to be honest, explaining yourself to someone who is not emotionally available is exhausting. It's a loop. It's a trap. A heartbreak that repeats. And every time they don't get it, you question yourself. You water down your truth. You shapeshift. You internalize their confusion as your failure. So here's the reframe. You don't have to be understood to be valid. You don't have to keep performing clarity for someone who refuses to listen with their heart. And that brings me to one of the most tender truths of reparenting. You have to grieve the approval you may never get. You have to let go of the fantasy that this time will be different. That this time they'll affirm you, celebrate you, see the nuance in you. When you stop seeking that approval, it's fucking painful. It's sad, but it's also freeing. Because that longing doesn't define you. Your worth isn't measured by your parents' ability to love you well. Your voice is real, your needs are valid, and your healing isn't contingent on their growth. Reparenting yourself while staying connected to a difficult parent means choosing your own peace over and over and over in subtle, powerful ways. In how you speak to yourself in a hard moment, in how you reclaim your time and energy, in how you decide that your truth no longer needs external permission to be honored. You are no longer needing to be the emotional sponge for your family. You are no longer needing to be the translator of everyone else's moods. You are the one who now gets to choose you. And that, my dear, is the most radical form of parenting there is. I'm going to take a quick pause again because I'm going to take a drink. This is a heavy conversation. And while you're here, if you're still listening and you're thinking, this is what I've been needing. I want to know more about this. I want to dive deeper. Tell me more. I want you to know that I offer virtual sessions for women just like you, as well as discernment counseling for couples who are on the brink. So whether you're working through trauma, trying to find your way back to yourself while working through family dysfunction, or sitting in that in-between space in your relationship, I hold space for all of it. You can check out my link tree to request a 15-minute conversation. And that conversation is a consultation for us to see if we're a good fit. All right, back to it, right? Here we go. You've breathed, you've taken a drink, you've shaken it out, cried it out, whatever you needed. So let's talk about something a lot of people carry silently and what it means to parent up. Parenting up is when the emotional roles reverse. You're the one regulating. You're the one soothing. You're the one who filters their words to avoid their defensiveness. You carry the emotional labor in a relationship where you're supposed to be the child. And listen, you can still love your parents and name the weight of this dynamic. You can still provide support without abandoning yourself. So what does that mean? So you can help your parents with errands and appointments, but leaving when the conversation becomes toxic. Have a statement, have an out, have something to go to. Answering the phone once a week instead of daily, because your nervous system needs that space. And saying no to invasive questions or redirecting the conversation when it veers into guilt, shame, or just crossing some boundary that you have put in place. So all of this means you no longer have to contort yourself to keep their peace. So what about some clear boundary scripts you can use when the emotional labor is piling up? Simple, clear, with no explanation, that doesn't work for me. No is a complete answer. That doesn't work for me. How about, I'm not comfortable explaining that again, or I'm not comfortable talking about that. You're allowed to honor your capacity. Repetition isn't always respectful. You don't have to keep talking about the same thing over and over just because they want to. I'm not comfortable explaining that again. And simply put, a gentle redirect when the conversation starts to veer into old patterns or emotional manipulation. Let's talk about something else. Just shift it. These statements aren't harsh, they're protective. They make space for you to show up with compassion and clarity. Because here's the truth. You're not obligated to be the family therapist. If you find yourself over-explaining or trying to fix your parents' emotions, ask yourself these things. Am I trying to keep the peace or protect my truth? Am I trying to keep the peace or protect my truth? Am I speaking from love or from a fear of their reaction? Yeah? Am I speaking from love or from a fear of their reaction? And last one, who am I trying to convince? And is it costing me too much? Who am I trying to convince? And is it costing me too much? The moment you notice yourself spiraling into, if I just say the right thing, they'll understand, just take a pause, because that's the old dance. That's the one that's always left you depleted, disappointed, sad. So you're allowed to disengage from it. And when it gets harder, when the guilt tripping begins or the gaslighting ramps up, here's what it can look like to stay grounded. Plant those feet on the floor. Feel your breath. Don't react. You don't have to react. Give yourself a moment to decide how to respond in a way that honors you. You can remind yourself that their reality doesn't have to become my reality, right? That's their issues. They are grown people. If they are having a hard time, that is unfortunate, but it is not for you to solve or be the family therapist. Mom, this is tough. This is beyond my capability. How about let's look for some resources for a therapist or a support group? Simple, not easy. Feel free to use short, clear phrases, right, when it gets hard. I don't agree with that. Or I need to end this conversation for now. I'm done talking about this right now. Maybe we can pick it up some other time. And give yourself full permission to hang up or walk away if needed. Safety isn't rude. If they are gaslighting you, if they're manipulating you, if they are picking at you and putting you down, not being supportive, understanding, validating, and loving, walk away. Hang up. You don't have to do that. You don't have to explain your nervous system to someone who doesn't respect your boundaries. You don't have to share your healing journey with someone who uses it as ammo. You don't have to shrink yourself to make them feel more comfortable. Parenting up is real, and it's exhausting and unfair. But you're not broken for feeling that exhaustion. You're human, because you've been carrying the weight of an adult since childhood. And in reclaiming your role as your own nurturer, you get to decide what you give, how much you give, and what you refuse to carry anymore. You're allowed to keep showing up, and you're allowed to set the terms. That's not cold. That's not mean. That's what emotional maturity looks like. It's not about cutting people off. It's about no longer cutting yourself down to keep the connection. Because you fucking matter, B. You deserve to be treated with respect and love and validation and be heard by everyone in your life, even the blood relatives. So let's talk a little about rebuilding your life without parental closeness. Because some of you have done everything, quote unquote, right. You've had the hard conversations. You've set boundaries with love. You've been generous with explanation, patient, compassion, and still your parent doesn't or can't meet you there. This is a grief most people never speak out loud. The quiet ache of realizing that the closeness you hope for may never fucking come. And yet, your life is still yours to build. So let's start here, right? Community parenting is real. Sometimes the people who raised you couldn't nourish you. Sometimes your nervous system was shaped in an environment where your needs were seen as too much or invisible altogether. But your story doesn't have to end in loneliness. You get to create emotional family elsewhere. Friends who affirm your truth, mentors who reflect your worth, therapists, teachers, neighbors, even online communities who help you feel parented, seen, and held. The people who help you unlearn fear and relearn safety. That's not sad. That's sacred. That's reclamation. You also get to give yourself the words they never had for you. And I encourage you to say them often and out loud in the mirror, in your journal, in your voice memos, in your head. I believe you. You make sense. You're good. I'm proud of how far you've come. You didn't deserve that. You're not too much. Say them until your body softens into them. Say them until they feel like home. Let yourself live big and well, even when they don't understand you. You don't have to keep yourself small to make them comfortable. You don't have to edit your joy just because they don't get it. You don't have to perform a version of yourself that wins their praise. You get to be the full, messy, radiant, powerful version of yourself, even if they don't celebrate it. That's healing. And healing doesn't require their applause. It requires your applause, how you feel about you. You've likely spent decades managing the moods, the guilt, the silence, or the chaos of a parent who could not regulate their own emotions. You've been the buffer, the fixer, peacekeeper, and the explainer. You've done so much work, but you're allowed to be done. You're allowed to lay it down. You're allowed to say, I love you, but I can't carry this anymore. You're allowed to rebuild a life that centers your well-being, centers around your well-being, not their reactions. That's not cold, my dears. That's wise. I feel that so deeply, right? I know what it feels like. And it's so hard to tell your parent, I love you, but I can't do this anymore because that fear of losing just what you have of them to go away is so scary. But you're not losing them. You're gaining yourself. You're not broken because you want closeness. You're just a human. And you're also allowed to grieve what never was while building what you could be. Let your people find you. Let your voice come home to you. Let your life feel like yours again. Even without parental closeness, you are still whole. You are still worthy. And you are still, as always, and always will be, deeply lovable. Parenting the parent, emotional immaturity, it's tough. It puts you in a shitty position to have to tell the adult what you feel comes quite obvious to you. They were never taught about emotions. Therefore, they put it on you to figure out emotions. But while you were figuring out yours, you had to manage theirs and figure out theirs and to stay safe. It's a shitty cycle. I'm not saying parents are bad or that your parents are horrible or any of that. I'm not trying to villainize them. I'm just saying that they were lacking the emotional capacity that you needed as a child or still need as an adult. It's tough. But your self-love, your community you build for yourself, your other family members that get it and see it. Those are your people. Those are who you can put more into, share more, and get back. With parents, it might have to be surface level for a while until maybe they find the way. Or maybe they listen to my bonus episode on Friday and are like, aha, I love my kid, let me be better. I don't know. That's my hope for the bonus episode that's geared toward parents listening. All right, wrapping it up. If this episode stirred something in you, if you felt seen, maybe even a little raw, I want you to know this. You are not broken for needing more than what your parent could give. That need for tenderness, attunement, and repair, that's not weakness. It's a sign of your humanity, not your failure. If you're the emotionally mature one in your family, that's not a burden to carry. It's a reflection of your growth, your capacity to be just amazing. You chose awareness when denial was easier. You chose boundaries when silence was expected. You chose healing when harm had shaped you. And that's something to honor. Before we go, here's a reflection I'd love you to sit with today, whether it's a thought prompt or a journal prompt. What do I wish my parent could say to me? Write it down, breathe it in. What do I wish my parent could say to me? Then ask yourself, can I say that to myself now? Can I give myself what they couldn't? It may feel unfamiliar at first, but every time you do it, you reclaim a little more of your voice, your power, and your peace. You deserve relationships that feel mutual, warm, and grounded. And even if that's not your story with your parent, it can still be the story with yourself. I'd love to hear from you. Message me, comment, follow, and please share. Like I said, I offer private sessions for therapy if you're in Texas and life coaching if you're outside the state or abroad. Trauma-informed, neurodivergent affirming, whether you're healing trauma, navigating a big life shift, or just ready to come home to yourself, I hold space for women just like you every week, every day. It is such a grateful feeling I have to have this job. I want to help you. I want to help you find yourself, find your peace. If that's something you're curious about, you can fill out a consultation request via my Linktree, along with a badass Spotify playlist made for healing women through softness and strength. And there's some more resources there. But I want you to know, you are never, ever, ever too fucking much. You're never too fucking late. And you're never too far gone. And you don't have to figure it all out alone. Create a community. Find some people. Find a therapist. Find a support group. Do what you need to do to show up for you in the way that you've always needed. Until next time, may you be happy and free. May mine and your healing ripple outward to bless the world with happiness and freedom. Take care of you, and I'll see you soon.